My name is Sarah Bennett, and my life has always been intertwined with someone the world adored, Princess Diana. Diana wasn't just a public figure to me. She was my childhood friend, the girl I shared secrets with and ran through gardens alongside. Our lives diverged as we grew older, hers swept up in royal duties and global attention, while mine remained rooted in simplicity. Yet, even as her world changed, our bond endured, though from a distance. Life has a way of moving us forward, but I never imagined how much Diana's story would shape my own. After her tragic death in 1997, I felt a piece of my heart break. I often wondered about the circumstances of that fateful night and the struggles she faced in the spotlight. The questions haunted me, but I had no answers, until the day of my own accident. It was a stormy evening, the kind where the sky feels heavy with warning. I was driving home, the rain pounding against the windshield, when my car hydroplaned. In a split second, everything changed. The tires lost traction, the car spun out of control, and the sound of metal against metal filled the air. Then, there was silence. A deep, consuming silence. When I opened my eyes, I wasn't in the wreckage of my car. I was standing in a place that felt surreal, bathed in a soft golden light. The air was warm and calm, and there was a sense of peace I had never felt before. As I looked around, a familiar figure appeared in the distance. She was radiant, her presence filling the space with grace and serenity. It was Diana. I froze, unable to speak. She smiled, her eyes filled with the same kindness and warmth I remembered from our childhood. "Sarah," she said softly, "it's been too long." I couldn't believe what I was seeing. "Diana," I whispered, my voice trembling. She stepped closer, her movements light and fluid, as if she were gliding. "Is it really you?" "It's me," she said with a gentle laugh. "And no, you're not dreaming." Tears welled up in my eyes as emotions flooded through me. Joy, sorrow, and an overwhelming sense of loss. "I've missed you so much," I said. "There's so much I wanted to say to you." Diana placed a hand on my shoulder, her touch warm and grounding. "And I've missed you too, Sarah. But we don't have much time. There are things I need to tell you, things the world needs to know." I nodded, my heart racing. "What do you mean?" She looked away for a moment, her expression tinged with sadness. "My life was never as perfect as it seemed. The pressures, the expectations, the constant scrutiny. It was overwhelming. Every decision I made felt like walking a tightrope, balancing between duty and the need to be true to myself." She paused, her gaze meeting mine. "But it wasn't just the public that weighed on me. There were forces behind the scenes, people with their own agendas. My death wasn't as simple as it appeared." Her words sent a chill through me. "Are you saying there was more to it? That it wasn't an accident?" Diana nodded, her expression solemn. "The crash was no coincidence. There were choices made that night, choices that led to the tragedy. But Sarah, the details don't matter as much as the message. What's important is what I stood for and how I can still inspire people to choose love over division." Her words struck a chord. Diana had always been a symbol of compassion and humanity, a beacon of hope in a fractured world. "What can I do?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. "You can remind them," she said. "Remind them of the power of kindness, of unity, of seeing beyond the headlines. The world needs to remember that we are all connected, that every act of compassion ripples outward. Diana gestured toward the golden light, and suddenly, the serene space around us shifted. I found myself standing in a scene I recognized from photos and news reports. The Pont de l'Alma tunnel in Paris. The air was heavy, the sound of screeching, tires and crashing metal reverberating around us. I could see the wreckage of the car, the flashing lights of emergency vehicles, and the frantic movements of paramedics. "This," Diana said softly, "is where it happened." I felt my chest tighten as I watched the scene unfold. "Why are you showing me this?" "Because you need to understand," she replied. "There were decisions made that night. By the paparazzi, by those who were supposed to protect me, and even by myself. It wasn't one single choice, but a series of actions and inactions that led to this moment." She pointed toward a figure in the distance, a man standing apart from the chaos, his face obscured by shadows. There were those who profited from my life and my death, but their stories aren't the ones that matter. What matters is how people choose to remember me, not as a victim, but as someone who tried to make a difference. The scene began to dissolve, replaced by images of Diana visiting hospitals, comforting children, and advocating for causes she believed in. Her smile, her warmth, her determination, they were as vivid as ever. "This is what I want the world to hold on to," she said. "Not the tragedy, but the love. Not the questions, but the hope." Tears streamed down my face as I turned to her. "Diana, I don't know if I'm strong enough to carry this message." She smiled, her eyes shining with confidence. "You are, Sarah. You've always been stronger than you know, and you won't be alone. There are others who believe in kindness, in unity, in making the world a better place. You just need to remind them." Her words filled me with a sense of purpose I hadn't felt in years. I didn't know how I would do it, but I knew I had to try. The golden light enveloped us once again, washing away the harrowing images of the accident. Diana's expression softened as she turned to me, her eyes full of warmth and determination. "Sarah," she said, "you have always carried kindness in your heart. That's why we were so close, even as children. And that's why I need you to share this message." I swallowed hard, still trying to process everything I had seen. But why me? Why not someone more influential? Someone with a platform? Diana smiled gently. "Because the most powerful messages don't come from grand stages. They come from genuine connections. You don't need to be famous to make a difference. Start with those around you, the people who trust you, who will listen to your voice." She gestured, and the light shifted to show scenes of people in various acts of kindness, helping strangers, supporting loved ones, standing together in moments of crisis. "This is what the world needs more of," she said. "Small acts of love and unity that ripple outward." "But the world feels so broken," I said. "There's so much division, so much anger." Diana nodded, her expression somber. "It's true, and those divisions are only growing, but they don't have to define us. Every person who chooses love over hate, compassion over judgment, helps mend the fractures. The more we focus on what unites us, the less power those divisions have." She stepped closer, placing her hands on mine. "I wasn't perfect, Sarah. I made mistakes, and I had regrets. But I always tried to bring light into the darkness. That's all anyone can do, and it's enough." I felt a swell of emotion in my chest, a mix of sorrow and resolve. "I'll try," I promised. "I don't know how, but I'll try." Diana's smile grew, radiant and full of hope. "That's all I ask." The golden light began to fade, and I felt a strange pull, as though gravity were reclaiming me. "Diana," I said, panic creeping into my voice, "I don't want to leave you." She squeezed my hands, her touch warm and reassuring. "You're not leaving me, Sarah. I'll always be with you, in your memories, in your heart, and in the work you do. This isn't goodbye." Her words echoed as the light grew brighter, overwhelming my senses. I closed my eyes, and when I opened them again, I was back in the hospital. The sterile white walls and beeping machines felt jarring after the serenity of the celestial realm. My body ached, and my head throbbed, but I was alive. My family surrounded me, my husband, my children, my sister, all looking relieved and teary-eyed. "You're awake," my husband said, his voice trembling. "We thought we'd lost you." Tears streamed down my face as I reached for his hand. "I'm here," I said, my voice barely a whisper. "I'm here." As the days passed and I recovered, the memories of my experience with Diana remained vivid. They weren't fading like dreams often do. They felt as real as the air I was breathing. I couldn't ignore her words, her message. I had been given a second chance, and I knew I couldn't waste it. I started small, just as Diana had suggested. I reached out to friends and family, sharing my story cautiously, testing the waters. To my surprise, people listened. Many were moved, inspired even. They began sharing their own stories of kindness, their own efforts to create unity in a divided world. As I grew more confident, I started speaking at local events, sharing Diana's message of compassion and hope. I didn't focus on the details of her death or the forces she hinted at. Instead, I emphasized her legacy, the love she stood for, the connections she fostered, the light she brought into the world. Over time, the message spread. People reached out to tell me how it had inspired them to take action in their own lives. Some volunteered at shelters, others reconciled with estranged family members, and many simply made an effort to be kinder in their daily interactions. The ripples Diana spoke of were becoming waves. One evening, as I sat with my family, my youngest daughter climbed into my lap. "Mom," she said, "you talk about Princess Diana a lot. Do you miss her?" I hugged her tightly, my heart full. "I do, I said. But I feel like she's still with us. Every time we choose kindness, every time we help someone, it's like she's smiling down on us." As I reflected on the journey that had brought me to this moment, I felt a sense of peace. Diana's light hadn't been extinguished that night in Paris. It lived on, in the lives she touched, and in the hearts of those who continued her legacy. I closed my eyes, whispering a quiet thank you to my friend, my guide, my inspiration. Diana's voice echoed in E. My mind, "This isn't goodbye,